Congratulations, Ikram in the round. Training is missing, so I guess I'm going to carry this round. Right, so the first motion was stated. Let's have Prime Minister to start off the debate. Please,
Madam Speaker, freelance war reporters will always be competing with each other to make the most sensationalized report, and just for them to be sold. I believe that it will create more harms if the media agencies publish the work of freelance war reporters and publish the work of freelance war reporters. Before going further, I would first define today's motion with the motion that this House believes that media agencies should not publish the work of freelance war reporters and instead resort only to in-house reporters. Why media agencies? This is because media agencies is the main source of information for the citizens to get. And most of the time, the citizens believe what the media is saying. And who are actually the freelance war reporters? It is basically these reporters who cover stories at war zones. They are not tied to any publications, which means that they cover stories and without any publication knowing what they are doing. And then they will sell these stories after they have finished writing a report to whoever that will buy the stories, especially the media agencies, because it is going to be published. And why war reporters? It is because what happens in the war, is that it is too private and is too dangerous if the story is didn't as reliable as it should be. Because it is just being sensationalized to be sold. What are the harms? It is because when the freelance reporters are being too exaggerated to make the stuff in creating a report just to make it more sensationalized to be sold, and what kind of exaggerated are we talking about? For example, they would make one side of the war for being too violent or more violence and describe about the gore rather than to report it non-explicitly. Before going on further, yes.
So I think these freelancers, right, they're not tied by any media agencies because they want to make the information more palatable. Then the media agency is with a conservative party.
Yeah, that is why I'm trying to say. They are trying to sell their reports, and in order for them to do that, they will create a more sensationalized stories rather than to create a more reliable stories. And our burden from side government is that we want to produce a more reliable report towards the citizens. And my first point, it is about the reliability of a report. Three things about my point, which is first, why in-house reporters give a more reliable report. Second, the ability of being a reporter. And third, about public opinion. Firstly, why in-house reporters give a more reliable report? Right, we compare freelance war reporters and in-house reporters, right? Freelance war reporters. Firstly, they are not tied to any publication, which means that they will just create a story that is not reliable, and they wanted to sell them to whoever that is willing to buy them. And in order for them to do that, it would for sure the story needs to be sensationalized. And for in-house reporters, is that they are tied to a single publication, which means that when they do a report during war, they will report thoroughly to the publication while they are working, which means that during their work of time in war, they will report thoroughly what happens in war, and not just by giving a report which is just done without the publication know what happens behind the report. Because freelance war reporters come to any media agencies and bring their report and let the media agencies decide whether they want to buy it or not. Right. So, secondly, the ability of being a reporter. No, sit down. Freelance war reporters may not have a certified qualifications because they didn't tie to any single publication, and they only got paid when their report has been sold, and therefore they might just be good at creating stories, at creating a more exaggerated report just for them to sell their stories rather than to actually create a more reliable report. Where for in-house reporters, they actually learn how to be a reporter, which means that they have the ability to write a report and they know how a report should be, how a report works. And a report shouldn't just be about creating stories, about making it too sensationalized for the citizens to read. And thirdly, about public opinion. When freelance war reporters prepare a report and they are being biased by creating a stories that are too violent on one side, it will create a public opinion of which the citizens would give their own opinions on what happens during war. This is too harmful because it will make the situation more chaotic, more intense. It is because when the public opinion is not correct and is too violent, for instance, they share their opinions which might not be right, which might not be the exact thing of what was happening during a war. So there are three things that I want to make things clear. Which is first, why in-house reporters give a more reliable report, and the ability of being a reporter, and public opinion. With that, I'm proud to propose.
When we can see news publisher, for example, Fox News and Star News, who actually publish news in favor of a group of people, for example, the conservatives, etc., etc. We believe that this is the point in which we believe that when your reporters are tied to a publication or a company, is the point in which they are more likely to be biased and create stories to begin with. Mr. Speaker, we tell you that under our side, we believe that both sides want to achieve the same thing, which is true news and news that we want people to know what is actually going on to begin with. We believe that it can only happen under our side. Why so? Because a couple of characterization on the difference between freelancers and in-house reporters. Number one, we believe that freelancers actually go into the country or actually go into the war scene in order to write their journals, not just simply creating their stories. The point in which they really do go to the scene also means that they actually see the atrocities and also actually see the deaths and the kidnappings of these people. We believe that this is the point in which they are more able to write true journals, not only just stories like what side government wants to tell us. But let's take a look at in-house reporters. How is it different from freelancers? We must understand that in-house reporters do not necessarily go to these kind of places. Why so? Because they stay in their office and write journals that the publication want them to write. So the point in which your publication is a liberal publication or a conservative publication also means that your in-house reporters now have to write reports which is in favor of your publication, and there is a more likely chance under their side in order to create stories to begin with. the information under their side from in-house reporters is more likely to be more dodgy, and they are also more complicit because they are not there in the scene and they do not know actually what is happening. Before that, sure.
Our side believe that we and the media agencies still deploy the people from their media agency to actually go to the place of war and therefore the reports.
So the point in which you send people to go to that wall and you adjust the camera angles in order to suit your kind of images that favor your publication also means that you don't get as true or as correct publication or as correct news to begin with. We believe that it is better under our side in which we are freelancers in order to report the true news. What is the problem under status quo? I believe that the problem is the point in which people have no right to know the true news, and that is also the problem that has been taken up by the government. But why is it better to solve this problem with freelancers under our side? I'm going to now tell you how do we solve the problem. How do we obtain better version of news when we have actually these freelancers on our side? Because we must understand the point in which freelance reporters are not affiliated with any political parties or publications, and they also have personal reflection on the things that they go through and experience on the war-torn countries. The third one is basically also how they have personal experience. I believe that these are all the reasons why freelance reporters are able to produce a better version of news, a true version of news to begin with. We are being, number one, why is it not affiliated with any political party so important to begin with? We believe that this is the point in which freelance reporters are not afraid to give any news or opinions that may harm any political parties. We believe that they are also more prior to give true news since that now they do their priority is never for people to subscribe. So this is also a clarification that side opposition wants to make. Side government says that these people actually sell, because they want to sell their journals, that is why they actually manipulate and sanctionalize their news in order for people to subscribe. We don't think that is true, because the point in which freelance reporters want to be freelance to begin with is because they do not want to get affiliated with any political parties. And how is it so important? Because number one, we believe that this is the point in which they can actually show gruesome dead bodies or how videos of people getting beheaded, which is exactly the truth that people need to see to begin with. We believe that under their side, the point in which you have a more liberal publication to control the reporters, they might not show this kind of images or videos to begin with because they do not want people to shy away from their subscription to begin with. We believe that number two, personal reflection is also very important, and it can also only happen under our side. Why so? Because the point in which people get to reflect on how they feel while they are on the when they are in the war-torn country also means that they are able to witness, hear, and have a visualized image of how atrocities actually work, right? We believe this is a point in which they are able to write articles on how they feel and tell people and influence people to feel the same way as they do, right? This is a point in which side opposition is able to bring people out of the fantasy land and show them the real world that is going on, the point in which we do not only adjust the camera angles and show them things that your publication do not want them to know to begin with. Number three, why is personal experience also so important? Because we believe that this is the point in which freelancers are able to feel the emotions of the people, the fear, the pain, and also the bombings are all experienced together. Why is there a higher possibility for freelancers to go down to these war-torn countries rather than in-house reporters? It's also basically because number one, we believe that freelancers need to write true news and they need to experience it in order to actually get the money and sell their journals to begin with. This is why they are more likely to go into the war-torn countries in order to feel and experience the atrocities. If compared to their side, in-house reporters are more likely to just stay in their office since number one, it's safe. Number two, we believe that they are paid anyways by their publication and not by anyone else, so they do not have the incentive to actually produce true news to begin with. The point in which their publication pays them means they do not have to go into the war-torn country also, and this is why all the benefits that can be accrued under side opposition is exclusive to side opposition only. What are the outcomes under our side? We believe that this is the point in which society are brought out of their fantasy land because the point in which blacks who are trying to get, for example, a black is trying just to get money, but got into a dispute with somebody else, we believe that this is a point in which your publication, who are conservatives, who want to let conservatives buy into your news, is a point in which they might manipulate certain words into telling that this black is actually committing crime and not having a dispute with another white guy, right? This is the point in which we tell you, side government is never able to break the circle, the point in which people only subscribe to news that they like because they are conservatives. We believe that it is better to work without a publication tied to you. Thank you.
Madam Speaker, it is so unfortunate today when the opposition side assume that every single freelance reporters are all being neutral and not being biased. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to recognize the fact that freelance reporters, yes, they opt for being a freelance to not be tied by any organizations, by any political power. But we also have to recognize the fact that they also have personal experience and personal background. Even though they had seen everything that occur in the war zone, we still have to recognize that those men also can be biased and also can be bribed by any parties that's not involved in political party. In this debate, I will explain how, as continuation of my first speaker, how does this reliability of the freelance war reporters should not be depends on. And secondly, I will explain how does public opinion will refer to the media agencies if they publish the work of freelance war reporters. But before that, of course, few reporters. The opposition side today had said to us that in-house reporters does not have much information as what the freelance work reporters had gone through as principles. But we tell you that in-house reporters, even if they didn't go to the war zone experiencing everything that happened in the war zone, they receive information from many channels, from many factors. This is what happened in the media agencies. Media agencies send reporters to all kind of parts of the country that's in the war zone and send it back to the reporters that will write the reports on what happens in war. Difference in freelance reporters, they only go to by single entities channeling, going to the war zones, and believe that even if they go to the war zones, they did not go to all parts of the war and experiencing all things that happens in the war zone. Before that, yes.
Yeah, so the comparative with your side is that your side doesn't have any form of tangible proof to show that people are being killed. So your side doesn't inherently have any awareness to begin with.
Awareness comes when the work of the reporters are being sensationalized and being exaggerated. What we want to have in the news is that we want to have a specific information and we want to have what's happened in that. If you want to make people realize what happened in the war, you want to make people feel emotional because of what happened, because of the bloody war that happens, killing millions of people. I believe that this is not media agency responsibility to publish this kind of work. It is freelance work reporters need to write a journal, full journal to publish their own words. This is not needed and inappropriate for media agencies to report this kind of thing, because you have said yourself that media agencies also related and tied to political party. Yes, you can see to the fact that they are tied and sometimes they are being biased. And this is what happened to Tesco. If this kind of media agency publish something that's against their policy, against their stance, what happened to the public opinion? Public opinion will see that the media agencies does not tie to political party anymore. Yes, we can see the fact they are biased, but we see that people and public opinion are supporting this kind of media agencies, supporting their news because they want to support the Conservative Party, also maybe another party, and also continuing my point, which is reliability of the freelance work reporters. Yes, freelance work reporters opt for having a freelance work not tied to a party because they want to have a neutral reports, not and not affected by what anything happening in politics problem right now. But we also have to consider the fact that these freelance work reporters also are in search of finding money. Yes, they will sensationalize. You say it's okay because they're sensationalized that they have been experienced. But what happens if they are being bribed by someone related to the war zones just because they want to make the war being biased and demonize one side only? This is the problematic of freelance work reporters because they are not tied by anything. Therefore, if anyone want to make use of them, people can just use money to make them making a news report on the news. They've been sensationalized, they've been exaggerated to demonize a party, demonize one side in a war zone. And secondly, so therefore, when we from the media agencies, we from the government thinks that media agencies cannot allow this from happening because media agencies have the responsibility to support what kind of political party that they are supporting with. Yes, we can see the fact they are biased, but freelance war reporters are more reliable in the sense that they does not have the confirmations of where the information came from and only from their personal gain experience and not from a constant report on what had happened during their journey in the war zone.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Tell us, why are you okay with people to write journals when they never actually experience what is happening?
Mr. Speaker, what we are discussing and debating today is not about the journals. It's about the media agency publishing on the news, on the Fox News and the Star News. It's not a kind of a thick book of journal publishing in the newspaper. You never see newspaper as thick as this. You never see that. What is being reported in the newspaper is only short article reporting on what's happening specifically in the statistic of what numbers of people died and not because of emotional, not because of experience. The reports based only on information and not based on personal experience and personal preferences. Secondly, I will explain how does public opinion will change and harms the media agencies once they opt for freelance work, reporters and publishing them as a work in their news. First of all, what happened right now is that in the world of opposition sides, they think that when a neutral news have being emotional and socialized by the personal experience, they think that it will become a realization toward the people. But recognize the fact that the second level in the harms that this kind of personal experience, even though neutral, it will still demonize a party which caused the harms, which caused the pain and killing millions of people during the war. It still will demonize, even though it is experienced. Therefore, media agencies cannot do this because if this sensationalized news is being published, it shows that media agency will support a party which is involved in the war. Media agencies is supporting the political party, but media agencies never publicly open and tell everyone else they are being biased and they're supporting one side. Because at the end of the day, if a freelance reporters sensationalize the issue and be emotional of what been experienced when they witness millions of people being killed, they also recognize the fact they will demonize a party that killed millions of people. Therefore, I'm proud to propose.
I think the most important thing to clarify in this debate is about these in-house reporters, right? Because what I got from government side is when they wanted a POI time, they told you that these in-house reporters also have personal experiences in these war zones. I don't think that's true, and I think it complicates what Govt is fighting for. In my speech, I'll be just doing two things, right? Both LO and DLO, I'll deal with them, and my second argument is about who will then increase the quantity or make the quantity of quality of news better, right? So let's go with LO. Because LO wanted to tell you that these freelancers are going to compete amongst themselves and they're going to show news which is more biased, right? So all I need to do in this debate is show the worst cases on both sides. So on Govt's worst case, you have people who don't have any tangible proof of what actually happens, and they are also controlled by a media agency that they have to create news which is palatable to them because they are under their job and they have an obligation towards that company. So what happens on the government side, right? On the government side, you have information which is not concrete, you have information which is not solidified by facts, and you have information which is palatable to certain groups of people. On our side, right, our worst case that they wanted to paint to you is that some of these freelancers are biased. Some of these freelancers are also people who get bribed by groups or I mean, all these kind of people, right? So essentially, what makes us better than government when it comes to the idea of fairness? I think it's the whole idea of being tangible, the whole idea of you showing someone being beheaded, showing the number of dead bodies in that Boko Haram has done that no one has ever noticed. That is what our side is able to do. So on a worst case, right, even if both sides have some form of manipulation of information, I think we have a cutting edge when it comes to the idea of tangibility. Yeah. Government has nothing else that they want to do. Moreover, you're tied to a media agency. There is no form of like concrete information or any form of awareness towards the information. I think this is all we need to do to take opposition down. But let's go further with them. They wanted to tell you about how, you know, that the society is going to subscribe to these news platforms because it caters towards them. Here's how we take it down. Right? The point in which my argument runs on the premise that these freelancers cover every single issue in this situation. Because understand, these freelancers are people who are not biased, I mean, who don't have an obligation to any other people in comparison to in-house reporters. They don't have any duty to cater to a Republican, to a Democrat, or all that nonsense, right? Freelancers are legit free. That is all we need to understand when it comes to freelancers. So let's talk about this public opinion, right? Because they want to tell you that, you know, people will always subscribe to the news channels. They will never escape that safe haven because it caters to what it needs. I think what our side does, we tell you the truth hurts, but we show you the truth anyways. We show you all those images of black atrocities that these conservative parties showed in a palatable manner. So what we do essentially is disprove all of the news that is being interpreted wrongly, right? We think that is what the freelancers do. So what happens, and this is directly linking to my issue, which is about the quality of this information or the news. Because what happens with freelancers is they go to the extent of getting information that in-house reporters do not get. So what do you get? You have information which is more credible, you have information which is more reality-based, and you have information that no one else is covering upon because it's shady. So what happens, right? When you have real news, real concrete news, other people are easily disproved and debunked. The kind of people we're talking about is conservative party-based news platforms like the Fox. These people are easily disproved when it comes to all of their information that they have. So what happens to these news platforms, right? They get a lot of criticism. A lot of people make comments that how you neglect all of these kind of atrocities that happen to these individuals. We think that is where we have the cutting edge. So sure, now that these news reporters, these news platforms get a lot of criticism from people as a whole. So how do you make the quality of information better? We need now to incentivize every single media platform to create more, to create not palatable information, but more real information. Because that is the only way to go in this debate. When you have real information, that makes the quality of information more better. So what are we talking about? Things of awareness like how Congo has so much atrocities, which could be related to America and could be related to the Soviet Union when they were talking about the Cold War. We think we address all of these real news and a lot of people can find out more information about it. What happens on the government's world? You don't know about it, you don't give a damn about it, and you keep on shunning and being more complicit to all of these problems that other people have. We think we solve the right that you have as an individual to access all of this information and get the most credible news. Because understanding government's world, you always have news that's surely palatable, but always incorrect or always interpreted in a negative manner or in different life perspectives. So on our worst case, right, these freelancers are also like catering towards certain biasness or they also take things from different angles. I think we already told you how tangibility of this issue is more. Let's focus on more credible thinking. Let's get them happen on side opposition. Not a case like a lot of freelancers people by ISIS, like North Korea, because people are here. So I think that's one issue I need to tackle. How freelancers people end up because the government doesn't like money. But here's why But on the side, we notice that these people, the fact that these people are really active makes all the information much more real. It makes all of their personal accounts being traumatized by being scared much more real in comparison to government schools. Yeah, sure, so not hot, but you never get the real information these people have. And on the outside, because you go through all of those atrocities, it is more like people are more willing to listen to the kind of information you have because it's something that no one else experiences, no media agency can have the information that you do as well. So, we don't care these media agencies die, but we do show you how these media agencies are more incentivized to create a better platform of news that government has never showed to us. Let's talk about how we restructure the world. So we already, my whole speech has told you about how we restructure these news agencies, we restructure these freelancers. Let's talk about society, because we already understand that society is biased towards certain information. Under our worst case, people will keep on denying these facts, right? You know, they'll have a confirmation bias among the conservatives, or they have a confirmation bias among the liberals. Yeah, we don't care if they're conformed to each other, because the point in which you have individuals who support credible information, these people can be debunked in itself. You may go on a strong stance and say, well, you know, that black atrocities are not so bad. But when you bring awareness about this information, you live in your own world where you escape from this vacuum of reality. No one is willing to support you, and no one is willing to run in line with your conservative ideas. So I've already told you, right, that these freelancers are people who are much more credible and have much more worse experiences. They may be a burden to the government to pay money to get them out, but sure, they get you the information they want, they get you the information they need, they get the real information. And that's all that's important for side opposition.
Madam Speaker, they said freelance reporters are not obligated to any political party. Sure, we concede the fact. But then again, they are obligated to themselves who want to sell their own product. Because at the end of the day, we have to focus that these freelance reporters, at the end of the day, they want to sell their product. They want to get money. They want to buy themselves food for themselves. So at the end of the day, these reporters will then create reports that are actually sellable rather than under their side of the house. They think that under their paradigm, these are the most true reports under their side, right? So before I go on to any issues, let us see the flaws of government side of this debate. Right? First flaw, they think that all reports that came from these freelancers are true reports. We believe that these freelancers who they characterize, they are under pressure, they are traumatized by these terrorists or Boko Haram or some sort. And we believe that if they are in that state, they see these kind of graphic images and all sorts, we believe that they also might be manipulated by the situation and that they might exaggerate to the situation because they are traumatized, because they are being under pressure in that situation. And we believe that these reports that came from freelancers cannot be true the entire time, like said by side opposition. Not yet. Second flaw. Side opposition dismissed our point, which we said that these reports that came from freelance are going to be sensationalized and more commercially accepted, where they just dismissed our point just by saying that, oh, it's not going to be like that, and we believe that engagement does not happen under that issue. Third response, they do not link any of their points to media agency. They did not show to us why do we need to focus more on media agency, because these reports are going to be reported by the media agency. They just said that, oh, they have no political stance and so on. But why is it beneficial for them to put in media agency? We believe that these freelance reporters, they have other platforms. They can speak in any other platform. They can make their own blog. They can just write things on Twitter and still get the traction and still get the same and still people will still read it at the end of the day, right? Before I go on, yes.
I understood that all I did in my speech was compare all of the worst cases and then prove to you why this tangibility is so important. Keeping that in mind, if they had tangibility, all the outcomes that these reporters want to
right, sit down. I haven't touched on tangibility just yet. Is in my response, right? So I have two responses, which is based on issue. First response is on bias of reports. Second response is about tangibility, right? First response, first level. We believe that these freelance reporters will publish what is most interesting. We believe that even if that they are not biased to any political party, at the end of the day, like I've said, they are going to create reports that are commercially sellable and that they will make it interesting rather than if it's biased to the government or to the opposition or not. We believe that they will still sensationalize it, and even though there's no bias, the reports will still might be untrue, right? Second level, we believe that these freelance reporters are also humans too, and every humans have their own stance, every humans have their own views on any situation. For example, the Israel war, where there are people who see that these Palestinians are the victims and that Israel are actually the oppressors, where some people will argue that it's wrong, right? We believe that these freelance reporters, they even though they are not tied to any political party, they have their own stance, they have their own views on certain situations, and we believe that if these freelance reporters think that the Israelis are the bad people, and that they will report that these Palestinians are not getting food or so on and so forth. But then again, the situation might not be like that, and we believe that is why we should send in-house reporters and to show only surface levels and without putting any personal perceptions towards this kind of issue. Because then again, we need to see that this kind of reports actually boils down to a country and country war, and we believe that if reports are skewed to their own perception, to the perception of traumatization, and also to the perception of which side is true or not, and we believe that that is harmful under that side of the house. Right. Second response to the issue of tangibility. Right. First level, we believe that when they said that we did not show explicit graphic images, we do not show that these people are being beheaded. We believe that media agencies should only focus on surface level. Why? We believe that this media agency will be watched by most of the citizens, and that what happens when you show too much information, when you show too much details that these people are being too violent and so on and so forth. We believe that public opinion will come in, and that what happens when a lot of citizens criticize some issues that may be untrue, criticize some issues that they view as too violent. We believe that just because media agency have so much influence, we do not want these people to see that. We believe that they have other platforms which, for example, second level, we believe that social media is also there to show these graphic details, graphic images, and so on. We believe that in Twitter every day we can see that people show the violence in Syria, the violence in Israel, where people see these graphic images, people see these gory details and so on, where personal perception, personal views is at play. We believe that that is okay for discourse. We just don't want these kind of issues to be actually brought to media agency and to be seen for the public and for people to criticize, right? So what is the outcome on today's debate? We believe that we would like to have the most reliable reports, which is our burden of proof, and we believe that under our side of the house, we will only send in-house reporters, and that even if they believe that these in-house reporters is biased to any government or some sort, we believe that it's okay because people already view like Fox News is biased to the government and CNN is characterized as fake news by the Donald Trump himself. We believe that people already see that maybe this kind of news is already biased, and we believe that it's okay to send more professional more professional individuals to actually report on this kind of situation rather than to receive any kind of reports by an individual that is unknown to the people and that we do not know the credibility of that individual, and for that under those reasons I'm so proud to propose. Thank you.
I think that side of government can be taken down very much easily because the whole case is contingent on whether or not these freelance war reporters are actually reliable, or how we actually have this public opinion that is okay if you don't show a full image of the crime scene. I'm going to prove to you why it's actually very harmful and very detrimental. We think that is much more beneficial to our case. So 4 issues on why we think we need this debate. Number 1, we think that they try to argue that we are not actually reliable because we think that they will be biased. We think there's more likelihood, there's more of a likelihood for their side to be biased. It's because their side has political parties and media agencies to influence them to manipulate the views of the certain news so that they actually get much more subscription. Here is the problem. We think that when you produce fake news, that is when you enhance more counter-reactive opinions in the society. We think that people are beginning to expose much of these media agencies is because we think that in the past, even CNN put 2 tripods and put a caution tape and say that, oh, this is a mass murder grave, and people actually investigated that. We think they found out that it was not actually true, and they found out that they faked and sensationalized the whole thing. Why is it more likely for them not to be reliable? Number 1, we think that their side is influenced on what the political party or the media agency wants to have more subscription that is fake. Number 2, we think that their side is less likely to be reliable because they have lack of personal experience. You see that all these media outlets have green screens, have fake backgrounds to prove that they are actually there, but in reality, they are not actually there. They are just in their office promoting fake news. You think that the likelihood of that happening is much more under their side, and people have actually proved why their side is very harmful. What is the comparative to our side? We think that freelance reporters would be less likely to be bribed and biased. First reason, we think that they're actually willing to risk their life to get this news. Second reason, they have a form of personal relation so that people can actually relate to them and people can actually know their suffering. Why is this so important? We think that this is very important because their incentive to sensationalize and monopolize will not actually occur at the expense of these people's sufferings. It's because they are actually there on the ground itself. They know how bad the situation is and they want to attract more international aid. They want to attract more awareness so that people can actually help this country. On their side, people are less likely to know what is actually the problem. And I think that even if they send aid or even if they have some form of awareness, I think that people will not actually cater to the problem because they think that minimalizing this news is actually good. The third reason, we think that they have lived a life where they are adapted to not getting much recognition in comparative to these media agencies. Why is this important? Because I think that the incentive for them to sensationalize and monopolize their news is less likely to happen when they are given the opportunity, and when media agencies are demonized, we are fine with that as long as people actually get the proper form of awareness. We think that this is when media agencies aren't able to manipulate because we limit the avenue of media agencies to manipulate because we actually focus on what these freelance reporters are doing. This is the point at which we think that people will actually not subscribe to them, and we are fine with that. We think that this brings another benefit to our case, which was highlighted by my Diego. He told you on how when these media agencies are demonized, that is when they actually have an incentive to change their ways of manipulation to bring a more substantial news so that they are less demonized and so that more people can actually subscribe to them. Seeing that these are the details that you use in order to make complete awareness. When you blur out certain things, people do not actually know the real extent to this problem. Second issue, we proved that why even freelance reporters can actually bring change. They try to argue that freelance reporters are much more manipulated. I think that on their side, even if it is, I think that on your side, the in-house reporters are much more manipulated because they want to listen to their bosses so that they can keep their jobs. You think that it's much more worse under their side for things to be much more sensationalized because they want to keep their job and they cannot say no. The point at which they say no, that's when you lose your job because you are actually countering what the company actually wants. You think that these people will not actually live a better quality of life. Bro, sit down. So what is the benefit? We think that we are actually, when people actually risk their life and gains their experience, that is when freelance reporters want people to know the true extent and on how they were actually killed or on how they were actually beheaded, like my dear Lo has already told you. What then happens? We think that this is when people will actually have more sympathy towards the people on the ground, and this is when people will actually want to help these media agencies. Help these freelance reporters, sit down. We think that we think that they are not willing to change their hard-earned news for money. Why is that? Because they can actually feel what these people want. We think that the emotions are so strong that you cannot negate the fact that they will actually be monopolized because they actually know what these people want, because they actually feel that these people are being killed. We think that this is when their rationale will come into play, and their rationale is much more much more better under our side, because their rationale is influenced by these emotions. That's actually true because they actually know what is going on the ground. If you blur a certain situation, we think that people are less likely, people will have more combat or more different opinions on what these people actually want. What then actually happens? You think that when these different opinions, you think that that's when people are actually confused and do not have a certain form of awareness that we actually want, because people do not actually know what is right, because they believe at first that CNN is telling the truth, but then when people actually find out that they're faking the whole thing, that's when they don't know what to believe in, because what they subscribe to is what they actually like. So we think that is where the harm is perpetuated. We think that how we actually better promote public opinion. We think the public subscription will increase if freelance reporters are there. How does it happen? We think that when freelance reporters are there, that is when people are actually want to know what actually happens. Your opinion on public is all fake, and your opinion is exactly like how your movies are. You censor certain things, you don't actually know what the true feeling of this movie actually is. You think that analogy exactly applies to their case. We do not mind any form of demonization because we think that it brings incentive, like what Madialo has already told you, to make better news so that both parties have true news and both parties get the subscription that we want. We think that news is much more exaggerated under their side, and news cannot be safe under any circumstance. Thank you on their side. Not gonna lie, this debate did sound a bit messy. When it came to the context of, these in-house reporters and these freelancers as well, right? Let's make things clear one last time so your verdict becomes much more better. One, on the idea of these in-house reporters. We tell you that these in-house reporters are people who are tied with a media agency. They are people who have already who have to make information palatable in order to keep their job. They are people who are forced into a situation whereby if they don't do it, they have lost their jobs. We make that clear. One. Two, freelancers. People who are not tied to any political party, people who go on the ground, who give the atrocities and show to the world. Fine, they are not, they may try to demonize or show people to explicit contents or show really bad things that they do because they inherently believe it's true. Like the idea that you have noticed your counterpart being beheaded or that the government has to pay money to get you out from being shot in the head is something which is really, which makes things all the more tangible under our side. So with those two things being said, I think we can now go into the issues. Firstly, let's go to the one that they didn't want to engage, because Govt didn't want to engage with my whole idea of the quality of info. Because I already told you in my speech how the quality of information is so important, how it changes the biased news platforms that exist within status quo. Notice in the whole whip speech that he only tried to tell me that, I didn't engage. The reason why I didn't engage is this, right? Because all his benefits are contingent upon the fact that both people are biased, the freelancers and the in-house reporters, and both people have a chance to be manipulated. I already proved to you in my speech why even if both are biased and both are manipulated, our side has the most exclusive part of the debate, which is the tangibility of this information. The fact that you don't need to censor this beheading. The fact that people have to look it head on and realize, look, this person's being beheaded, it could happen to you. It's something which only exists in opposition world. In government's world, they never proved to us how they could create some form of change with the quality of information in context to who will be less biased or who will create information which is more palatable. Because we already told you in this debate that palatable information is not the right information. And we tell you that the true information is the one which is most important and we want to uphold. Secondly, on the idea of, bias, awareness, right? Because we think that there are issues where there are people who are biased about it, like police brutality and African American people being involved, and issues where there's less biasness when it comes to being complicit to the Tamil tigers in India or people in Congo, for instance. So when we compare situations where there's no biasness being involved, right, where it's just the idea of awareness in itself, we think the fact that the freelancers have to go there and have to suffer and see these atrocities, which brings them to have an emotional bond with this information, something which we tried to show you, right, already shows you how bad the situation is, and they will want to bring as much awareness about the situation in itself. Because notice, under side government, you never bring awareness about issues as such. You don't bring awareness about human genocide or any of this nonsense because you're willing to comply with the idea that, well, we receive information from some people. That the fact that you receive the fact from these people allows you to manipulate accordingly because, you are a media agency that does whatever you want to please your people. And then there's this idea about the people. So who brings awareness to people? Who brings the right information to people? I think we already proved to you why we bring the right information to people. But on the idea of awareness, right? Because government, when you censor information, you give people less of an incentive to care about it. When you give people gruesome and gory pictures, that's when people really take a step back and think, look, it's bad. We think that only happens in our world. So when it comes to recognition and awareness to the people on the ground, we are the only side which is able to achieve it. I think Congo is in a bad place. I think Syria is in a bad place. Only with freelancer people who are willing to sacrifice their lives to give you that important and painful information is the way to go.
Right, thanks.
This house believes that media agencies should not publish the work of the freelance war reporters. The opposition side today never proved to us, never clarified to us, never really convinced us why does media agencies really have to publish all of these things. They had proved what they had proved is only about the reliability, the trueness of the publish of the works of the freelance war reporters. In this reply speech, I will tell you a few things. First, why does media agency should not report on the freelance work reporters? No, we have to understand that the narratives in the government side, in the narratives of an opposition goes like this. Millions of people, 300 people is killed in a bomb. 300 people is killed atrociously in a bomb where their bodies is being destroyed thoroughly. The difference between our news and their news is that they are depicted the emotional value, the experiences in the articles. But from the government side, we think we does not have to publish such emotional experience, personalized news in the article of the news. Because media agency role is not to provide emotional volume. Yes, it provide awareness, but it is not to the extent of giving a personalized experience, giving such an emotional article. It is to give information to the extent. And right now, Have you seen that a person being beheaded in the Twitter? Have you seen the news of such atrociousness in Palestine being killed in a bomb in the Twitter? There are many kind of platforms that have been there and have spread our awareness, and it is not needed for media agencies to publish this kind of personalized experience freelance war reporters. And secondly, I will explain to you how does by making a freelance war reporters will disrupt the structures of media agencies. Media agencies right now is supporting a political party, but they never proved to us. And what we have seen throughout the debates that this kind of the opposition side want the whole media agencies to change the structural structural form of media agencies like Fox News. If they are supporting political party now, they should stop supporting political party. If CNS is being labeled as fake by Donald Trump, they have stopped to being fake. What they think right now, they want to change the whole structure of the media agencies, but they fail to realize and recognize that even when media agencies are receiving news from the freelance war reporters, they will still screen the news and articles when they want to publish them. At the end of the day, screening will happen and media agencies will not allow such things that will bring them down. They are thinking too much to change the structural value of their agency, that they did not realize that to change the structural values of structural form of media agencies itself have to fall down, have to be disrupt and rise from the very grain of sand. Throughout this debate, we have seen that both government side and opposition side are thinking about debating on reliability, on changing the mindset. But we say that reliability of freelance war reporters are not reliable in the sense that they are not tied, and everything they do is personalized and is more to individualistic. And secondly, touching on awareness, we see that Fox News, any kind of news, is not to only focus on awareness. It focuses on informations, the whole structure of informations. If awareness want to be spread, there's many other platforms such as social media, which is also influential in the sense that many people are using them in this technological era. Therefore, I'm proud to propose.
Hey guys, Ikram, also working with